Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Stryftek, and I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. Is it worth your time? On trial today. Avowed. Made by Obsidian, a studio you certainly have heard of. They're the ones behind The Outer Worlds, Grounded, Pillars of Eternity, Stick of Truth, Fallout New Vegas, and many more. Avowed was released in February 2025 on Steam and Xbox Game Pass. It's a first or third-person fantasy RPG, and if you've played Skyrim or Outer Worlds, you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to be getting into. However, Avowed is releasing with the hefty $70 price tag. Has Obsidian made the game worth such a large chunk of change? Or should this have just been a Skyrim mod? Let's dive in. Also, big thanks to Xbox for providing me with this key so I can make this review. You plays the envoy from the Aether Empire, a powerful, expansive nation within the world of Eora. You also happen to be a godlike, someone who has been touched by a god and now manifests some physical aspects for all to see. Your mission? Investigate and stop the Dream Scourge, a strange plague spreading across the land. And of course, as the story progresses, you discover you're directly tied to it, because of course you are. The story here is expansive and honestly a little overwhelming. The game is set in the Path of Eternity world, for which there's already 2 games with definitive editions, expansions, and more. I even think there's books and whatnot. So if you're familiar with this world and its goings-on, I suspect this is right up your alley. But for me, who knows nothing, I felt thrust into the middle of the 3rd Lord of the Rings book, and I was just flying by the seat of my pants. There was this cool feature that helped. They would highlight words that were brought up, and you could sort of look at them during chat as a dictionary to give you more context, and that was helpful. But even that, there is just so much lore and so much story going on, and very little of it felt relevant to the main quest. You've got books, you've got papers, you've got notes, you've got chats with NPCs, and then chats with your companions that will take quite a long time to go through and exhaust all the possible options. And then the side quests and the bounties, and they don't all relate to the main story, but there's at least a lot to do. I honestly started off with a plan of reading everything and looking at everything and immersing myself in this world. But after about 5 hours, I realized I would never finish the game at this rate, so I backed it off to only pushing that deep for the main storyline stuff. Overall, the main story didn't fully click with me. Was it good? Yeah, but I can't say I'd recommend this to someone else for the story. The gameplay in Avowed boils down to mostly combat, and it's pretty dang fun. You have a variety of weapons to pick from, many with unique perks, a class system so you can learn abilities, and then stat points, and 2 sets of weapons to swap between, making it so you can basically play the game however you'd like. I really enjoyed the magic, so I typically had a wand and a grimoire, and then when they got too close, I'd swap over to my sword and shield. And this worked really well because the stat system didn't impede you. It's set up in a way that you'd get beneficial perks for basically any weapon set you're running with. And depending on how many stat points you had, that would even open up new dialogue options. And the icing on the cake to all of this is that you could respec whenever you wanted for just a little bit of gold. So did you find a new weapon that looks really cool that you want to try out? You'll be able to use it and equip it right away. But if you decide to change your whole build to revolve around that weapon, it is really easy to do so. Besides the combat, the other highlight was the exploration. The parkour system isn't really much more than ledge grabbing, but basically everything has a ledge and you can climb up on everything, and it's actually a good bit of fun. And unlike other games where you just parkour up to a ledge and then the enemies can't hit you, in this they either follow you up there or they have ranged attacks. Even bears have ranged attacks. But there is just so much to explore, and you're very often rewarded for looking around. Or you even inadvertently complete a quest. You explored a cave, killed an enemy, and then got a random piece of paper you don't know what to do with. You'll likely find a quest giver who's going to ask you to go to that cave and retrieve some piece of paper, and oh, guess what? You already have it. The other aspects of gameplay, such as the puzzles, crafting, and basically everything else, they existed to help move the game along, but that's about it. If I had to categorize the gameplay in one word, I would say it was safe. And while not bad, it just got a little dull once you hit about the 20-hour mark or so. There's not a lot to say about the graphics. Avowed looks good. The fantastical setting lends itself to the bright contrasting colors. The spell effects are flashy and feel impactful, and generally speaking, the game plays pretty well too. Even on my lower end test machine, I was pleasantly surprised by how well it ran. Now, I didn't test it on my Steam Deck, but Steam Deck HQ says it is playable at like 30 frames, but probably not recommended. While the game gave me big Skyrim vibes, the one thing it was missing was that set-piece song. If I asked you to think of the Skyrim song, you'd be thinking of this. Avowed needed that one memorable song. Or maybe the song was there and the atmosphere just didn't cater to it. Ultimately, it makes it so that there is a soundtrack that's good, just not overly memorable. On the voice side of things, we did have some outstanding actors that I did find annoying at times.
Unless you're hearing that from a handsome stranger in the bathhouse, that's usually an invitation to trouble. And not as fun as the kind you get into in the Steam.
That was Kai, voiced by Brandon Keener, who you probably would know as Garrus from Mass Effect. We also had Anjali Bhimani, sorry if I butchered that, who I recognize as Symmetra from Overwatch and Rampart from Apex Legends. And then the legendary Matt Mercer, who's done voices in everything from Naruto to Overwatch to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and more. And that's only a few of the incredible voice actors we got to listen to. So, is it worth your time? Within the first 2 or 3 hours of the game, you've experienced all the game has to offer. After that point, there's nothing new. Yes, the story progresses, and you learn what's going on, and you find new weapons and some new perks and abilities, but it feels like they gave you everything in the first couple of hours. And after that, everything just felt the same. I mentioned this before, but they played it very safe when it comes to this game. It's like they looked at Skyrim and Outer Worlds and other RPGs and made a generic version of them. I mean, the game has good combat, good exploration, an okay story, and good graphics. But it's missing something, that X factor, you could say. And honestly, I'm not quite sure what it is. The best way I can describe it is they just played it too safe. So it's priced at $70 on Steam, and while I have no doubt you can easily get 40 plus hours out of this, I just want to make sure you know what you're in for. This is a great in-between game. The game you play in between the other big games. So during those long stints between the big releases you're waiting for, this is the perfect game to pick up and enjoy. It's not a competitor for Game of the Year. I don't even think it'll be on anyone's top 10. But it's still a good game. And if you happen to be on Xbox, it is on Game Pass, so at that price, sort of free, it is absolutely worth jumping in and having some fun. Just don't be surprised if 10 hours in you drift off to another game. Avowed will be there when you get back. My name is Stryftek, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Is It Worth Your Time?